Ninja Gaiden is a series that I've heard about for many years, but I never actually tried any of the games, though I know some of the characters because of things like Dead or Alive and, well, certain spin-off games. It didn't help that I was never a fan of hack and slash as well, so I kept putting off trying the series. Until now. Yeah, I watched Xbox Developer Direct 2025 when it showcased Ninja Gaiden 2 Black along with upcoming new entries. And since it was coming to Xbox Game Pass as well, I figured why not try it out? It ended up being the right choice because when I got into the game on stream, it ended up being an incredibly fun experience. So Ninja Gaiden 2 Black tells the story of Ryu Hayabusa, a story which I honestly didn't understand during most of my playthrough, but it didn't affect my enjoyment at all because of how the game was. The events, characters, and enemies felt like the devs had a meeting and said, hey, let's come up with all the coolest things that we can and put them in one game. It doesn't have to make sense, but let's just do it. It was a huge surprise for me because, well, I thought that Ninja Gaiden for some reason had a standard ninja setting where you fight other ninjas in the Edo period or something. I wasn't expecting flying cars or robots to be in the picture. It gets real crazy, but the best way I can summarize the story is that Ryu travels around the world to slice up bad guys, and the bad guys range from ninjas, demons, and practically everything in between. It feels very much like those violent, over-the-top anime that came out in the 80s and 90s, which is why I found the game to be very refreshing. There's just so many modern games out there that over-explain everything to you as you watch a 10-minute cutscene. In Ninja Gaiden 2 Black, it's all about the gameplay. The cutscenes are brief, getting straight to the point, whether it was to show something cool or to just let a few characters yap for a while. Because of that, I'd say it's the most video gamey new game that I've played so far this year. So Ninja Gaiden 2 Black will have you going through different levels, hacking and slashing your way through each chapter. The combat is brutal in a very exaggerated way, since you'll literally be spilling liters of blood. Each fight has you slicing enemies and severing their limbs, but it makes finishing them off feel so much more satisfying. You'll be able to use different weapons like swords, a staff, scythes, and nunchucks. I mostly used the lance and scythe weapons throughout my playthrough, but I also tried the others in some chapters. Every weapon has their own stylish attacks, which match the endless amount of combos that the game has. Yeah, something that surprised me about starting this game is that it felt kinda like a fighting game. There are multiple combos that you can input to deal with enemies, though I don't think that I'm the best person to discuss this aspect of the game, because I could barely memorize the combos and do a proper charge attack. It was a bit of a learning curve to try and perform specific moves, especially since I'm fond of button mashing, but it ended up being really fun when I could do at least a few basic combos. I've heard people mention that the game is difficult, but I didn't think it was that bad. But maybe it was because I was playing on normal difficulty. There were enemies that were almost irritating to fight, but it wasn't enough to make the whole experience harder for me. Blocking and taking advantage of iframes really made a huge difference. Like, if you were just attacking and moving around normally, it made it very easy for enemies to whack you around. I thought that the game was quite forgiving too, since they let you use items to heal and revive yourself. You can even use special attacks called ninpo that help you deal more damage in fights. They were perfect when I needed invulnerability as well. The save points were also placed in perfect spots in most levels, so when I felt like I was starting to struggle health-wise, I'd come across a new statue and I'd be fully healed. But yeah, I absolutely enjoyed just how fast-paced Ninja Gaiden 2 Black was. It never felt like I was stuck in one area for too long, and that would continue even in boss fights. Like, the boss battles were fun, but they can be quite short because of the game's speed. Seriously, if you manage to get multiple combos on a boss without getting staggered, they would probably end in like 3 minutes or less. It was jarring to me because I don't know, they just seemed like they were going to pose more of a challenge because of their super long HP bars. But nope, Ryu is the true boss battle in each and every fight. I like the boss battles though. Like sure, the fights didn't last long, but I liked that they all had varied designs and attack patterns. I also liked how some of them had gimmicks as well. I think my only complaint was that there was this specific boss that kept coming back. Like it was crazy. Every time you thought you defeated them, they would be back for the 3rd time or something. But other than that, it was an awesome experience. Apart from fighting enemies, I loved going through each level. I just felt like a free-spirited ninja when I needed to jump between walls and wall run. The stages were mostly linear, but I liked that the game rewarded you for checking around pathways and corners. There would be chests and other collectibles that gave you things like healing items and health upgrades. Though I tend to be blind when I'm streaming, so I missed out on a lot of that stuff. But yeah, it was very cool when I actually did find them. It helped me save money for weapons and ninpo upgrades as well. Now, does the game measure up to the other versions? I don't know. I only found out when I started streaming this game that this entry in the Ninja Gaiden series is now part of 3 different Ninja Gaiden 2 versions. The original on the Xbox 360, Sigma 2, and now 2 Black. Sigma 2 was a remaster for the PS3, so it had better graphics. The problem was, they removed the gory aspects of the game, so you couldn't dismember enemies and slice them in half. But apart from that, it added new missions among other things. Now 2 Black is supposed to be the definitive remaster, remake of the game. Visually, I'd say that it really shows. The game is beautifully remade on Unreal Engine 5, and I wouldn't even think that it was based on a 2008 game if I didn't know all this. The game includes things from Sigma 2 as well, with the obvious difference being that you can cut up enemies again with blood spraying everywhere. Yep, now the game's both shiny and ultra-violent. But the problem with 2 Black is it has changes that Ninja Gaiden fans may or may not agree with. It bases its level design on Sigma 2 instead of the original game, so there's less enemies in specific levels, and it's missing some content like optional costumes for Ryu and specific boss fights in game modes. As of this video's release, they've added New Game Plus, Photo Mode, and some adjustments to later chapters of the game, but that's it so far. There's no telling whether they'll add content from Sigma 2 at a later date, unless it has already happened. Feel free to comment down below if you're watching this from the future and they've added more things in the later updates. So yeah, I was pretty disappointed when I learned that this game was supposed to be the definitive version, even though it doesn't have all the additions from Sigma 2. But since this was my first Ninja Gaiden experience, it was still really good. I think it sets an example in the industry. AAA games should go back to having this formula. A formula that's just pure fun. It doesn't need anything deep or complex, it just needs engaging gameplay. And the fresh coat of paint that's applied to Ninja Gaiden 2 Black makes me crave that even more. Like, I personally don't think hyper-realism or anything like that makes a game better. But if we could get more titles that have the gameplay of older games from the PS2 era, with better graphics, I think a lot of people would enjoy that. And for those of you who dropped by my streams for this, I'm sure you witnessed how much I enjoyed the game as well. Like, I play a huge variety of games, but ever since I played this, I can't help but compare almost every new action game to it. It's been happening so much that I feel like it's a sign that I should go try Ninja Gaiden 1 to be satisfied. If you want to make sure that you don't miss out on specific experiences, it might be best to weigh the pros and cons on the different versions of the game. But as a first-time Ninja Gaiden player, I thought that Black was a great entry point. I spent around 19 hours on the game, playing most of it on stream, but the rest of my playtime was used to record some separate gameplay footage. I highly recommend it if you want fast-paced action and a very fun experience overall. Ninja Gaiden 2 Black is out on almost every platform. Let me know what you thought about the video, and like and subscribe if you like my content. Thank you to my patrons at Patreon for supporting my channel. I might be working on a review for a more niche game next time, since I do miss doing that. I hope you all look forward to it. But yeah, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.